What if it rained food? What if Earth was a cube? What if we had 9 lives? What if bits could fly? It's absurd. If money grew on trees, if we didn't have knees, if we walked through life slightly magnetical, it's absurd. Absurd Hypotheticals.
Hello everybody and welcome to Absurd Hypotheticals, the show where we overthink dumb questions so you don't have to. I'm your host Marcus Lehner and I'm joined here today by Chris Yee and Ben Storms. Say hi guys.
Hey, I'm Chris.
Hey, I'm Ben.
Before we get started today, I wanted to share a news article I happened to come across today, which is titled, Australian Court Rules Farting at Someone May Not Be Bullying. The victim said that his former supervisor, who he called Mr. Stinky, would fart around him 5 or 6 times a day.
Like, every day?
Also important, does it say if he called him Mr. Stinky before or after the farting started? Like, was this a pre-existing nickname, or...?
No, I think he's calling him this, like, in his official filings.
I see. Okay.
So, I'm gonna say this. First off, this is not, like... I read this and I'm like, oh, some kids at school are farting each other. No, this is in an office. This is a 56-year-old man who is suing his boss in this construction company for coming into his office too often and farting, or farting in his direction thinking it would be funny. Like, what do you... The thing is, he would... So here's a quote. He would fart behind me and walk away. He would do this 5 or 6 times a day. I can't imagine even... with a name like Mr. Stinky, you have more than 5 or 6 farts in you a day that you can distribute at will.
Yeah, that takes some, control.
I don't even know if I fart that much. I don't even... I can't even...
I mean, does he, exclusively eat beans?
He could be lactose intolerant and does nothing about it.
Oh, that is true. He could have, some kind of colon condition.
That's
in which
also
case
possible.
the farts are going to be way worse.
That's also true.
So, the way it's worded, it sounds like he's doing it on purpose.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So... he testified that he had moved out of a communal office space to avoid his supervisor's flatulence. But then after that, the supervisor would come into his small windowless office several times a day and break wind.
See, this is the one advantage of open floor plan offices, is that it's much less of an impact if something like this happens to you.
Right, it sounds like he purposefully moved from an open area to a small enclosed area with no ventilation.
That's the wrong tactic to take here.
Yeah.
You want more ventilation.
What gets me is, I'm trying to imagine what I would do if my boss just decided to start doing this. It's like, can you quit? Is it enough of an excuse to quit?
I feel like you can go to HR.
Yeah.
This seems like a reasonable... I don't know.
But if he's a supervisor, he's probably hired HR.
Well, that's the point of HR,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, the idea of HR is that they're the person you can go to in a situation like, not this one specifically necessarily, but...
Only fart issues.
Yeah.
Would you go to HR with this problem? If it's your boss, and then your boss finds out you went to HR?
If it bothers you this much to sue him, then yeah.
Okay, I can only imagine, so here's the thing. I can only imagine that if he moved to a different space, he must have already gotten HR involved or something.
Yeah, because you can't just get up and move on your own. You usually have to, tell people that you're moving.
Right. Yeah, there's
approval.
a process. Yeah. So, this seems like an HR escalation thing? I don't know. How do you get to suing? What are his... Wait, hold on. What are his damages?
He is suing for 1.8 million Australian dollars, which is $1.3 million for damages.
And you said they already decided this.
Right, so yeah, it is... The court found that it is not... Basically, the argument is flatulence constituted assaults, is what the main guys are arguing. And the court's like, farting is not assaults, even if he meant to do it.
What? Also, how do you get to I'm going to use the American conversion here, $1.3 million in damages from this? You can't just make up a number and say that's your damages. You have to, justify it. That's how court works.
He argues he was bullied in the workplace until his job was terminated.
What was he doing that has $1.3 million from his job being terminated? What was his job? Please tell me.
He is a engineer at a construction firm at really, really creative name here, construction engineering.
Dug deep for that one.
Also, this article came out March 29th, 2019. He had left the office, or his job was terminated in 2008.
Has he just not worked this entire time, and that's why he's saying that's how high his damages are?
Yeah, or his lawsuit has been going on for 10 fucking years. The fart lawsuit, like,
That seems
how
absurd.
do you talk to people at like holidays? Like, oh, what have you been up to? Oh, just talking to my lawyers. The fart thing again, man? Yeah, the fart thing. It's assault, I tell you.
No, see, actually, the better side of this is not from his perspective. It's the lawyers, because there's a decent chance that there is some like junior partner or something at this law firm that is like their course load, and for the last 10 years. Every time they see their lawyer friends, they're like, "Hey, you still on the fart case?" "Yeah, I'm still on the fart case." Like, it'll clear out soon, buddy. Don't worry.
My question
Open a
is,
window.
after he got fired, did the guy move on to someone else? Is someone else having this problem now?
That's a good question.
Mm.
Is he a serial farter, or was it something personal?
Also, one more fact on this. He only worked there for 11 months.
So it's some sort of like hazing thing.
a literal hazing.
Yeah.
If you can put up with 12 months of farts, you get a promotion. But he was only 2 weeks away
Didn't
until
make
he
it.
quit, and then sued. Apparently,
This all is baffling to me. Everything about
I
this.
can't believe that you would sue over this, and that you would quit over farts in like less than a year. Like,
Wait,
there's
so
just it.
Did he quit or did he get fired?
He was fired, so I guess he's arguing that he got forced out of the workplace by bullying. I guess he thought farting
Like,
in his
what did-
office was his way. His boss was telling him he's fired.
I feel like there's clearly something else, some other part of this that we don't know, because I don't understand how.
Maybe like he got fired and he like had a lawyer friend, and his lawyer friend's like, "Well, why do you think he got fired?" He's like, "I don't know. My boss just was always mean to me." He's like, "Oh, maybe you have a case here. How is he mean to you?" And he's like, "Oh, he would just like come into my office and fart a bunch." And he's like, "Hold on, this might be a case. You might have a case
It's
here."
technically possibly a
Maybe
case.
there are like health implications. You're like breathing in.
Are there? I
No,
don't-
they just say that it's assault. He's just trying to argue that it's assault, and the judge is like, "It's not assault, it's farts." But I think we've
You're trying to think of a fart pun, aren't you?
yeah.
We're just spitting hot air over here.
Yeah, I think we're just spitting hot air over here.
There we go.
So let's move on to our question of the day, which is, what if all sports were in a swimming pool? For those of you who heard our last lightning round, this question might sound familiar, because when we talked about it there, we kind of actually really liked it, and we were talking about a bunch of different sports that might actually be pretty cool. So we decided to make a whole episode out of it.
So I did basketball, which is one of the major sports.
Of the sports, it is
Of
up
the
there.
sport.
Of all the, well, I say that because you guys did more obscure sports.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough.
But basketball, so pool basketball is actually a thing. You guys have probably played it or seen other people play it, where you're in a pool, you have like a mini basketball, and there's like a basket, you just run in the pool. It's kind of boring.
So is that your answer?
Yes.
Yes,
No.
answer done.
All
That
right,
is not
Ben.
my answer. Obviously, I wanted to make this more interesting. And in our lightning round, we actually talked about using like the buoyant force of the basketball, where you'd like push the basketball underwater and then like have it launch up, and that's how you'd like shoot things, which I thought that was a cool idea. So I wanted to incorporate that somehow. And we also talked about the issue of dribbling, like how would you dribble? And like dribbling is based on like how many steps you take. And if you're not stepping on the ground, then what constitutes a dribble and travel and stuff like that. So to solve that problem, I was thinking, can we just play basketball completely underwater, and you'd just like walk on the floor of the pool, and then you'd be able to step, and you'd be able to clearly define if you're traveling or not, and that would work. So that was my initial thought. I was like, okay, we'll weigh down the players, they'll play on the floor, and then to shoot, you would use the inverse trajectory based on like the buoyant force. So like in normal basketball, the basketball has like an arc, but you'd have like an inverse arc.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's a pretty neat idea. So I started to look into like other underwater sports that exist just for reference, just to see how they work and how they deal with like different problems. And I found underwater hockey, which is basically just a bunch of people swimming underwater, and they have like tiny, it's not like normal hockey. They have like tiny hockey sticks, and there's a puck on the ground, and they just like swing at it.
Very
Got
cool.
It's a little weird. They're not
I mean, it
walking.
sounds like hockey to me.
They're like swimming though. They're not walking. So they're not like weighed down or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't. That doesn't solve my problem because they're not walking. They need to be stepping to dribble. And then I found underwater ice hockey, which sounds similar because it's hockey, but it's actually completely different. What they do here is they go to a pond that's been frozen over, and they cut some holes in so that they can go into the water, and they flip upside down and play on the underside of the ice.
What?
Yeah.
Is this real?
It's real. I saw a video of it, and it's pretty... I mean, it's super slow because it's underwater, but
Right.
That's what they're doing.
But what about the temperature? Aren't you like dead? Doesn't your body go into shock?
I'm assuming they're in like they're in like wetsuits.
They're
I
in
would guess?
wetsuits.
Yeah.
They're in like full wetsuits. I don't know how they deal with the temperature because it's still super cold if it's frozen over, but they do it. They probably have like time limitations, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I've never worn a wetsuit, but like, it's not a fucking like cloak of heating from like D&D or something. It's not gonna just make the water warm.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, that doesn't affect my issues because they don't have to play in super cold water. But I wanted to take that idea of playing a sport upside down underwater and see if we can do that with basketball. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put a solid surface on the top of the pool, and then the players are going to go into the pool. They'll flip upside down and play on the top surface. And to do this, so we don't need to weigh down the players. They can just float and they'll stand on the top. And then the baskets will actually be on the bottom of the pool, and the buoyant force going upward will be just like the equivalent of gravity. So you just play the entire thing upside down.
Huh.
Now, obviously the buoyant force is different than gravity, so I want to like compare them. So the buoyant force of a standard size NBA basketball is 69.4 newtons, and the gravity force on a basketball is 6.1 newtons, which is net force upward of 63.3 newtons. So obviously the upward force is way bigger than gravity is. So I was like, can we make this basketball heavier, like more dense, so that it's equal to the gravity force? So if we have a basketball that's 14 pounds, but it's still the same dimensions, then the upward force will be basically what gravity is going down. So we're going to have a 14-pound ball, and that solves that issue. So the whole point of this, we're trying to like recreate like all the basketball things that you do, like dribbling and passing and shooting in water. But one of the obvious problems with that is that water resistance is much higher than air resistance.
Yeah, just a smidge.
Mm-hmm.
So even if gravity is the same, or if the buoyant force is the same as gravity, you're still going to have issues. So I looked into that, and water resistance is 800 times more than air resistance.
Yeah, a smidge.
A little bit more.
So I was thinking, okay, that means you need 800 times the force to dribble, pass, and shoot. So you obviously can't do that with just like your hands. But if you have like technology, if you're augmented to be able to do that, then maybe it'll work. So the first thing I looked into was propulsion jets, underwater propulsion jets, which they're usually used to navigate underwater, and you can see like sometimes scuba divers use them just to like move. And commercial models of these propulsion jets provide like somewhere around 5 pounds of thrust, which is not a lot. That's nowhere close to what we need, but there are military grade models of these, and they provide up to 665 pounds of thrust. And that's more like it.
That's a smidge more. Just an extra smidge to counter the other smidge.
Yeah.
So my idea here is people will have like Iron Man style hand thrusters on both of their hands, and that's how they'll dribble. And I think you'll probably need like an opposite direction thruster that'll activate at the same time, so your hand doesn't go like shooting off.
Right.
Oh yeah, otherwise it just takes you to the bottom of the pool.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly because it might end up just crushing your hand, so you might need like a super strong, I don't know, armor thing on your hand.
And then you need a specific anti-wrist thruster, and then another thruster, and then
Just be covered in thrusters. Yeah, so those will be on your hands, and then you'll have thrusters on your feet for like jumping and stuff. You can dunk and block and stuff like that. And that's basically all you do. So you'll if you want to dribble, you'll activate the thruster with like a button every like few seconds. You'll walk. It might be a little hard to walk underwater, but it'll still technically work. And then you can shoot. And that's how basketball works.
So it's exactly the same, except there's way more tech.
Yeah, exactly the same, except you're upside down and you have Iron Man stuff.
Makes sense.
Easy peasy.
So, Ben, what did you do?
So I looked at tennis, which there are some immediate issues that you have with regards to pool tennis, which the first one we have to sort of figure out is getting the ball to bounce, because similarly to basketball, it's a pretty important part of tennis, the fact that the ball bounces.
Ooh, I know. Let's add thrusters.
I did not add thrusters. I'm going to go ahead and say that now so you don't get too excited. What I found was a product called the Waboba bouncing ball. Waboba, basically, it's the name of the company. It stands for water bouncing ball. It's not a particularly...
Oh, so it's like a ball with thrusters.
The ball does not have thrusters. I said no thrusters. I thought I was clear about this, but apparently not. There are no thrusters involved. I know this is a very big disappointment to you, Marcus.
I understand.
Now, Marcus,
I understand, Ben.
Marcus, how do you think it works?
Well, I'm going to let you tell me.
Okay, but there's no thrusters. That's the important part. Anyway, so basically what it does, it's made of a combination of like polymers that basically makes it deform a bunch when it hits the water. So it sort of skips the way like a skipping stone does.
Is it still round?
Yes, it's a round ball. So basically, the reason that it's tough for like balls to bounce on water is that they don't deform. They'll hit the water, they'll impact, they'll make like a little like indentation where they hit, and they kind of just get caught on that indentation and sort of, lose a lot of their force. But with like a skipping stone, it makes it somewhere.
You counteract that force by adding thrusters.
No, there's no... Marcus, what did I say? I was abundantly clear about the lack of thrusters in this plan. So if you look at a skipping stone, it does something kind of similar where it hits the water and makes an indentation. But then because it's flat like that, it skips up off that indentation, sort of ramps off it and keeps going. So this ball hits and is round, so it makes the indentation. But then because it deforms much more than a regular ball, it then flattens and skips up in the same way.
So it deforms more on other things too, though, right?
This is true. Yeah, it would deform.
It's basically
more on
like a flat, like
it's kind of like you know when you see like if you see like the videos of when someone hits a baseball and the ball like they slow it down like 100 times or whatever, and the ball like goes flat on impact and then rebounds.
I like how your example was a ball that's stiffer than a tennis ball.
Well, no. So my point is that it does something similar, but it takes much less force for it to deform.
Right.
But it's the same idea where it flattens on impact, so it maintains its more of its velocity. So it moves very much in the same way like a skipping stone does, where it sort of jumps across the water like that. So we're going to use that because that bounces, which, as we mentioned, is important and requires, Marcus, how many thrusters?
About 7.
No, Marcus, we went over this. Buddy, no thrusters. 0 thrusters. All right, so we have a ball with no thrusters. We have a ball. We need rackets now. You could just use normal rackets probably still, but that's not fun. I think the rackets are actually basically like flippers, because then you can also use them to like propel yourself through the water more easily too, which seems really fun.
So are they on your hands or your feet?
So I think it has like a handle like a tennis racket, but then at the end it's just like a flipper. But then you can like grab it and, pull yourself through the water like that. But on that point, I think it's a lot of fun if everyone just also has flippers on as well. Just for, faster movement once again. And then, of course, I feel like at that point, those should also be legal to return shots with. Now, you might be asking, why not have flippers on both hands? The reason that we don't is, one, the two-handed backhand is really cool. I don't want to lose that. And 2, you need to be able to toss the ball up to serve it. And I know there's ways around that, but it's most the two-handed backhand thing, because that's really cool. I like that a lot. That's one of my favorite parts of tennis, the two-handed backhand, so we're conserving that. So 1 racket, 2 flippers.
The serve toss is the most frustrating part of tennis. I'm going to say that right here, right now.
It is, and it's probably much more frustrating.
Because all you have to do is throw the ball literally straight up like 2 feet. And it is the hardest fucking thing in the world, and it makes you feel so dumb.
But imagine how much simpler it'll be while you're also having to tread water while doing it.
Well, the thrusters will compensate for throwing it off center.
Marcus! Once again, no thrusters. Anyway, so we have rackets. We actually have technically 3 rackets per player now, if you count the flippers, so extra rackets, which means extra tennis or something. Next kind of issue, the lines on the court are kind of tricky because you can't draw on water. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but it doesn't work very well. So we need a way to have lines. I really wanted to just use like when you go to like the pool at the Y and there's the pool lane lines. I really wanted to use those, but I think there's too much of a chance that, the ball will hit them and skip off of them and go off in a weird direction.
And you can't like go past them as a person.
Well, we're going to get to that.
Oh.
So I think it has to be something floating on the water. I just want it to be smaller than that. So I think it is just, a rope or cable or something that is pulled semi-taut. And I think you do have to go either over or under it. Either in like a dolphin leap over or a, duck under. Because that also seems very fun.
I don't know if that's really possible.
I don't know if you're really possible. The vision is cool, okay? You have the extra flipper. You can get a lot of force. I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
Well, you need the back thruster.
Marcus.
This time for real, though. You could use one to
This
do
one
that.
could actually help.
Okay, maybe there's a thruster. Maybe there's
coming
one.
around.
I was done, but that's too perfect.
Not on the ball. Maybe on the player, okay? I will give you that. Maybe. Just so we can have some dolphin jumps, all right? I will accept that. Maybe. Because I would like dolphin jumps if possible. So you have, let's say, like a cable that is the lines. You got the lines out there, same setup as a regular tennis court. There are going to be some rule changes as well. The court probably does have to be a little bit smaller because it is going to be hard to move around than just, on your legs, I would guess. Even with the flippers. So I don't know the exact size, but you can figure, this is one of those things you have to kind of sort of test.
Do you know how big is a normal tennis court?
I don't actually have that. I probably should have. I looked it up at one point and then realized it was going to be too big and didn't write down how big it is.
It's definitely too big, though.
It's definitely too big, though. What's funny is I've actually written down the dimensions of a tennis court multiple times in other notes and not the one where I talk about tennis. Way to go.
Not the one that's specifically tennis.
Yeah, you'd think I would have.
Why have
thought of
you
that.
written that down in other questions? We've never talked about tennis.
I think I've
Probably
used
the
it
point
as
of
a
comparison.
size reference. Yeah.
Oh.
A couple of times. The other big thing, and, this is a decent change, I think you need, in traditional land-based tennis, you get 1 bounce with the ball. I think you need more than 1 bounce because it's skipping like a stone. It's a much, shallower bounce. So I think I couldn't decide, so I can't decide what's better because there's kind of 2 options here. You either you get 3 bounces, or there is the regular out of bounds, then a really out of bounds. If it goes past that while bouncing, you lose the point.
How many times does the ball usually bounce in water? Because you could just do once it stops bouncing.
So I thought about that too, but so there's a couple issues with that because that was the first thing I was thinking about. One, it's tough to sort of judge when something is actually stopped. It might
The pool is constantly moving.
Yeah,
might make it complicated.
The other tough thing is that with something like a drop shot where you hit it real softly right up front, I don't know if, I guess in actual tennis that is pretty much just it is done it pretty quickly, so maybe it still fits the spirit of the game, but I don't know, maybe that one's not as much of an issue. But
how about this?
Please
you
give me.
You add it I'm not gonna say thrusters. Don't worry.
Thank you. Okay.
You put up walls like racquetball around the pool.
Ooh.
And now your ball has to be bouncing far enough to hit the wall. So you definitely get at least a chance at it on the bounce. And if you hit it too hard, it bounces off the wall and bounces back to your side now.
Interesting.
So the ideal shot is bounce, wall, and then bounces back on your opponent's court. So they can kind of get two stabs at it.
Yeah, so maybe it is a legal hit if it has to hit the wall and then hit in their side of the court again.
Correct, to be a point for you.
So in this scenario, the pool is the entire room. So the room is like the size of the pool. It's just a pool room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it has to hit the water, then hit the wall, and then hit the water again.
Yes.
That I like. That is a good non-thruster addition from Marcus. Thank you. I appreciate it. So I think that's kind of the sport. I might actually be on board with a thruster because I do really want that dolphin leaping. And you're not going to get there with just the 3 flipper system. You're right.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to go under, like, even if you're not jumping over the lines, you still have to go under, and that's going to take forever.
I don't think it's too bad. You can dive under real quickly.
You're going to have such jacked legs treading water with flippers like the whole tennis
Oh,
match.
yeah. Oh, it's going to be absurd.
What if it was just waist deep water?
I considered that too.
That's just less fun. That's
Right.
less
I
cool
felt like
sporty.
that was less of the spirit of the question.
That's basically like what actual pool basketball is.
Right, yeah. I thought about that, but then it basically is just kind of tennis, but a little bit slower and, with like the skippy ball thing.
But way more diving shots because you're going to dive every fucking time.
That's
Anyhow.
true. Yeah. So that's kind of what I have. Marcus, what did you do?
I did water polo. Nope, scratch that. Polo in the water.
Yeah, you got to make that clarification because water polo is actually kind of the same as a sport already played in a pool.
Why do they both have like the same name?
They're similar. I mean, it's the same basic idea, just, plus water minus horses.
It's a pretty big difference.
Well, yeah, this is true.
So let's go over very briefly what polo is. Polo is a game. It's basically soccer on horses. So you have 2 teams of 4 that'll be on horses with big long mallets, and there'll be a small ball on the ground that you're hitting and trying to get into your opponent's net. Beyond that, none of the rules are actually interesting. Like, it's just you just get to hit it.
Yeah. Is there a
I think the
goalie in
most-
polo?
So what they have is they have 4 positions. They're called number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4.
They really broke the bank on making names, huh?
Yeah, so basically this is exactly how it goes. Number 1 is in front. They are the most offense-oriented position on the field. Number 2 is behind them, and they play kind of midfield. Number 3 is behind them, and they kind of play defense midfield. And number 4 is the defensive guy. Not like a straight goalie, but he's like stays in the back to
Got it.
try to prevent scoring.
So they're just all in like a straight line?
Yeah, so you're basically like in a straight line in the field. And your number 1 is covering their number 4, and your number 2 is covering their number 3, number 3 is covering number 2, blah, 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 etc. What I do like is that in the description, like the 3 descriptions I read for like what these numbers are, they all recommended where your best player should be and where your worst player should be typically.
Oh, can I guess? Please let me guess.
Sure.
The worst is definitely number 2. The best is definitely, it's either number 1 or number 4.
Both ways incorrect. So,
Shit.
number 1 is typically your weakest player.
Okay.
Because I guess they just got to stay out there and, score goals. So they just got to get past 2 and hit it.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is usually actually your second best player. Because number 3 is where your best player goes. So number 3, they say, is the tactical leader that must be a long, powerful hitter to feed balls to number 1 and number 2, as well as maintaining a solid defense. But the caveat, and sometimes number 2 is the best player. If your number 3 and number 2 are close, you'll put your number 2 to counter their number 3 as a best player, and you'll put them together.
And then number 3 gets the treasure chest.
Yeah, and then number 3 gets the treasure chest, and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Who has the most thrusters?
Well, they all have 1 horsepower of thrust.
That makes sense.
So, my first question was, if you put horses in a pool, what happens?
The question on everyone's minds. The question of our times.
Didn't we kind of look this up in our lightning round, like, very quickly?
Yeah, we did. So I pulled up the same article again. So there's a story of a flood that happened on a farm in Australia where this guy's racehorses treaded water for 7 hours to survive the flood.
That's way higher than I would think.
Yeah.
That is a long fucking time to tread water. So horses can swim and tread water. But here's the problem with the horses. One, I don't think they're particularly fast swimmers, and their legs are kind of everywhere, and they, kick real good is a thing horses are good at. So it's going to be not a pleasant experience for the horses. And then secondly, horses don't actually have the ability to close their airways. So if they drop underwater, like their head just drops underwater, they can drown very easily. So for humanity's sake, I'm going to say we're not going to use the horses. Also, it's kind of going to be slow and awkward and not super interesting to watch, I don't think.
For humanity's sake, not for the horse's sake.
I don't think it's interesting for the human's sake, because you're just kind of sitting on this horse that's like trying to barely swim, and you're just kind of like looking around hoping a ball comes your way, I guess. So what we need is the aquatic form of horses, which, Ben, get excited. It's dolphins.
Yay!
Kind of sad you didn't go with the pun for seahorses.
Yeah. Well, they're kind of
Oh my
small.
god, damn. Should have made tiny seahorses. All right, let me change my answer. It's tiny seahorses. But, yeah, so I was looking up if you can actually ride a dolphin, theoretically. But it turns out you can also just go to a place and pay to ride a dolphin. So they have, like, interact with the dolphins, and you get to, like, pet them and whatnot at a lot of resorts. But some of them even have ones where you can grab onto its dorsal fin, and it'll, swim you around a bunch. So this is the basis of water polo now. I guess pool polo, I'll differentiate. I'll call it pool polo.
That's a good call. Yeah.
So the first thing is how dolphins are a bit faster than swimmers generally. So you're going to need a pretty big pool. An Olympic-sized swimming pool is 50 meters long by 25 wide. And so the world record swimming speed for 50 meters is 20.91 seconds by the Brazilian Cesar Cielo. So 21 seconds is a fine amount of time to get across a field in a sport. But a dolphin, who can swim at like 35 miles an hour, can do that same distance in 3.2 seconds, which I think is less of an okay number for your sport.
Yeah, that's a little bit too fast breaky right there.
Yeah, so you probably need a pool like maybe like 2 to 3 times the size. Again, like Ben, like you said with tennis, it's going to require a bit of play testing to find the right distance. So after that, we have the arena. Now we just need the ball. So polo is normally played with a small, like 4.5-inch diameter inflated ball. Like sometimes they put like leather skin on the outside, sometimes it's plastic. They use actually a bunch of different kinds. But I think that ball is going to be a bit too small. Like you can hit it if it's on the ground, but I think if it's churning in the water full of, dolphins and players and things, it's going to be too hard to hit a tiny ball like that with a mallet. So I'm going to bump that up to like volleyball size.
So the properties of the ball are basically like a volleyball.
Right, and that's, yeah, so it's going to be basically a volleyball, because I think volleyball is also a good amount of hardness to get hit by if someone hits it with the mallet. But the original reason I looked up what kind of ball it was because I was worried the ball might sink. And that got me thinking, I wasn't using the coolest part about a pool for sports, which is that it's 3-dimensional. So I want to have the floaty volleyball, I want to have the floaty volleyball on the top. But I also want to add a heavy ball that sinks to the bottom. So that kind of like that hockey you mentioned, I think what we're going to do is we're going to have a combo of floaty volleyball on top, and you have a surface level game with a net up there, and at the bottom of the pool you have like a heavier ball and like a slower but more tactical game with a net on that's at the bottom of the pool. 2
separate games happening at the same time.
Yeah, and this also helps solve the problems of dolphins being very fast, because like you're gonna have 2 games to worry about. So what I think it is, I think each player gets 3 dolphins. I think the way you travel mostly on the top, I don't think you hold on to the dorsal fin on the top one. I think the way you do it is like when they do the SeaWorld tricks and things, where you have 2 dolphins that go under each foot and lift you out of the water, which is super cool to look at, and I think would be the best to watch as a sport. So that's basically, I think the way the game progresses is you get 2 dolphins, 1 under each foot that you stand on top of.
Dolphin skis.
You hit like the volleyball where you need to do it. And then you're probably out of control at that point. So I think you hop off your double dolphin team and you land on your 3rd dolphin, who immediately dives you down to hit the ball on the lower level. And you're kind of just bouncing back and forth between the bottom game and the top game. And that's basically my dolphin water pool polo sport.
How many players are there going to be per team if there's 2 things going on?
Also, how many dolphins?
So polo is played 4v4, which would be 8 players and 24 dolphins in a pool, which is probably enough. Players. And I imagine dolphins are smart enough, they might be able to play independently a bit too.
Just let the dolphins take the human aspect out of it.
Yeah, I guess you could probably just teach the dolphins to play a sport. But we'll keep humans in it because, I mean, polo is a rich man's sport, and there's nothing quite rich manly as
trained dolphins.
Kind of, sort of abusing animals for entertainment.
Oh, that's reasonable. Yeah.
That's what I got.
Cool.
That's what I got.
I like it.
So with those 3 excellent sports done, which one would you play the most, Chris? Which one do you think you would play?
I would probably play.
The one I would play the most is probably the tennis, because it seems like the most.
If tennis had the thrusters, I would play tennis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think tennis is definitely your everyday sport.
Right. The other 2 are much higher commitment.
Yeah, the basketball seems like it needs a lot of equipment to just play basketball, and the polo feels like you play it like 2 or 3 times in your lifetime. Is the pool polo sport?
Right.
That's for special occasions. But I think that brings us over to our Would You Rather round. So, Ben, would you rather be super fast or super strong?
So I actually had to think about this exact. Well, there were more options as well. So my fiance and I do BuzzFeed quizzes together.
Oh.
And this was actually a question on one of them because, at least as of when we're recording this, Avengers Endgame just came out. So, like every...
No spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers, don't worry. Like literally every single BuzzFeed quiz is either Avengers or Game of Thrones or both. A lot of both, actually. But so I personally would probably go super fast. Just because I feel like in my day-to-day life, it would be more useful to be super fast and super strong a lot of the time. And also just like, as someone who runs, I just enjoy that feeling of moving fast, even when that fastness isn't actually all that fast in the grand scheme of things. So I feel like running fast would just be really fun.
So do we want to define how fast super fast is and how strong super strong is?
That's a good question. That's actually a very good point. Are we talking like the Flash?
I think less than Flash speed.
Okay.
But definitely in the superhuman realm.
Right.
So like
double the normal speed or triple?
I'd say 3 to 4 times more on either for both of them.
So like basically you're just like normal standard running would be like Usain Bolt sprinting.
Yeah, something like that.
And then your super strength, your just normal like strength would be, lifting like stronger than strongman lifting. Like twice as strong as a strongman? I don't know.
Or like you can just easily lift a car.
Yeah. Okay. I think I would still go super fast.
Yeah, I think I would be the same. I'd go super fast. Just you'd save so much time.
Right? It just seems very useful.
Yeah, I agree. Super fast is probably the one to go with, because you don't really need to use all your strength all that often.
Right.
Super strong is a very specific. Like if you're moving, then it's useful.
Yeah.
Or if you just want to like show off.
What if we added resilience to the super strongness? Like you're super strong and hardy, where it's hard to injure you now.
I don't really get in fights a lot. I guess with super strong, I'd be able to fight crime if that was a thing I wanted to do.
Yeah, actually, I didn't even think about in the context of actually doing superhero shit. I don't think I would do that on my own.
Right.
I don't think if I was super strong, I would go fight crime. I don't think I would do that.
Yeah. Well, if you're super fast, I don't think it would really give you the ability to fight crime. But super strong, you would. But I probably wouldn't do it, even if I was super strong.
Wouldn't.
Yeah.
That seems like spend your weekends better.
And also
Also, imagine if you go and vigilantism and start fighting crime. I figure you're gonna be like arrested by the time the month is out.
Right.
Probably.
Seriously.
Regardless of how good you are.
Also, like I feel like superheroes are a lot less useful when it's just like regular everyday crime. Like it's less helpful, when there's not like super villains around.
Yeah, that's true too. Like if all that needs to happen is like a cop needs to show up,
Right.
and arrest somebody, your superhero powers aren't doing too much.
You're
Yeah.
more likely to become a supervillain.
Yeah, and I definitely don't want to get into stuff the cops can't handle, like a gang bust or something crazy like that. Where
A drug raid.
Right. Yeah.
yeah, that would not be my cup of tea. So yeah, I think we all agree on super fast.
It just seems much more both fun and useful.
Yeah. That was an easy choice.
Yeah. Well, they're not
Yeah,
all.
some of them are easier than others.
They're not all mermaid or centaur.
But yeah, and just because you can't be super fast or super strong doesn't mean you can't be super cool by joining us on our Patreon. If you want to be hypothetical, you can hop onto our Patreon and donate $1 a month to support our show, and it helps us keep making our excellent content for you, the listener. If you want to be hypotheticooler, you can donate $3 a month and gain access to voting rights, so you can start voting for what questions we answer on the show. When we make changes to the show, we'll have votes on those, and basically anything else that we can think of to put out to a vote to our listeners will be at the $3 range. Have your voice be heard and influence the product that you enjoy. And then lastly, if you want to be the hypotheticalist, you can join our top tier of $5 a month, which gives you access to bonus behind the scenes episode every single month, which is a more casual hangout episode with me, Chris, and Ben, where we go over we review the last week's questions, we do a bit behind the scenes, we tell each other how we really feel about our different answers, when we can remove the facade of recording the episode.
And we have a sample episode of Behind the Scenes already out for everyone if you want to listen to that and see what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, our very first behind the scenes episode is available for everybody to enjoy. All right, and with that, I'm done asking you guys to give us money, and you can listen to us ask for money again next week, where we answer the following question. What if the speed of light was only 30 miles an hour?